A very good morning to everybody. On behalf of KCG College of Technology, this is Dr. V. Banureka, Head Fashion Technology Department, welcoming all the students and the faculty from various colleges pan-India and KCG College of Technology and the people from the industry also. Welcome to the webinar on digital transformation in the retail industry. India is the second largest retail market in the world. Retail industry in India has shown an expansion at a CAGR of 16.3% over the period 2013 to 18. Indian fashion retail market is set to grow to 115 billion US dollars by 2027. So the key factors in the growth of retail industry are robust economic growth, increasing tourism, that's a question mark now, rising population, growing youth segment, changing consumer trends, rising purchasing power, and penetration of international players. So this webinar will give you insights on the digital transformation in retail ahead. People are always going to go shopping, and retailers are always going to keep innovating and accomplishing a great retail experience for the customer. Yes, retail is a customer business, and there's no way to learn that in the classroom. So that's why we thought we'll learn about retailing from a person who has always been working to create that customer experience by all means. So we have our speaker today with us, Mr. Abhinav Srivatsava, a retail domain expert with over 18 years of experience, has spanned across various retail functions. Abhinav has worked with multiple companies from corporate to startups in retail sector, handling multiple roles. He has been a product and business consultant for nearly a decade, giving his insights right from identifying the market, creating brands, and improving the competitiveness and profitability of a company. Welcome, Mr. Abhinav.
Hi, good morning all.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me around, and thanks a lot to Banureka ma'am and KCG College for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to have you here. And I should also thank the lockdown, which has made it possible for you to spare some time with us. Yeah, so we'll just start the session, Abhinav.
Yeah.
So we have a few questions which we'll be asking you all, so you can take your pace to answer them.
Sure.
So the first one, it's all about the new trends which are existing in the retail market. A constant in fashion is change. Retail is a place where this constant change is showcased. So how is the retail industry changing and coping up with this?
All right. So if you look at how retail has evolved in the past couple of years, one thing which we can see is overall the intervention of technology into retail. I mean, I'm sure being in India, we are all exposed to the typical mom and pop stores, and of course, with the globalization and the market opening, the way the things have scaled up, I mean, EBOs, exclusive outlets, malls, the kind of the sudden outbursts which we have seen in the past couple of years with respect to consumption has definitely made available products and services which were, I mean, not foreseen probably when we were growing up. That being said, what has been really a change driver apart from increased consumption is the technological or the technical interventions which has happened in retail, be it let's say from a simple point of sale to a CRM, or let's say how the typical touch points are evolving in a retail store. So technology, I would say, is one of the drivers for the new or the changes which we are speaking about. And of course, the consumer trends and the consumer behavior.
Yeah, thank you, Abhinav. So what are the steps taken or the changes or the change agents which create an ultimate customer experience in the retail space?
Okay, so right now, if I have to speak as on date, businesses are changing drastically. Uh, of course, in India, we're still, coming out of the lockdown and, trying to see how things will pan out. But overall, if you see, as I mentioned earlier, so there are certain touch points at the store level which have been seeing a lot of intervention happening. So if I have to name a few technologies, let's say an artificial AI or a virtual reality, augmented reality, technologies like QBurst technology, something like endless aisle. So these kind of concepts and technology agents have actually been penetrating the market. Now, of course, with the COVID happening and then things going more contactless and looking at the new scenario, we see more of the adoption of technology based solutions is going to be faster. If I have to, pre-COVID, yes, of course, there were a lot of experiments which were happening, whether it is a simple thing like an endless aisle um, or let's say beacons or facial recognition or smart mirrors. Uh, just to name a few. Yes, of course, post-COVID, there will be a lot of focus on contactless shopping. And I also feel that the adoption level of all the technical solution or the technological solutions in retail will be much more faster. One of the challenges which we have noticed, and I'm sure you guys will also agree, the adoption in India when it comes to technology is slightly slow. It could be of because of multiple reasons. Of course, we have enough manpower to do the day-to-day mundane things which basically need not be passed on to a technology solution as such. Apart from that, yes, costs have also been a concern in terms of adoption of technology. But then I believe that because of the current times which we live in, I believe that we should be able to the adoption of technology at this point in time will be faster. Just to give an example, I know a lot of people who actually never went on to an online payment model. In fact, till almost till pre-COVID, we were almost at 60% cash transaction and 40% coming through debit card, credit card, and let's say the UPI based payment wallets. Now, and again, UPI based payment wallets will hardly be 1 or 2% of the entire transaction. Now, of course, post-COVID, there are, even with respect to tier 3 and tier 4 cities, smaller towns, the adoption of certain technical solutions like, let's say, uh, a payment solution, whether it's UPI based or wallet based, that has skyrocketed, right? So, in fact, in tier one itself, there has been a 200% jump in the online payment itself. So that if we just go by that stats and if we have to draw analogy from there, I believe that technology adoption is increasing, which is a good sign. Uh, and probably what years and years of exposure to different concepts couldn't would were not was not able to do, and probably this particular pandemic will force.
Yeah, thank you, Abhinav. So the next one is about will there be a proportional change in the retail space in the context of brick and mortar and online stores? Are we having new concepts?
Right. So yes, I believe so. I believe that the proportionately, of course, the online business is going to scale up for multiple reasons. I also believe the omni-channel concept, which of course all of us have been dabbling with for last 4 5 years, and Most of the bigger IT companies have also been trying to push it. That is also going to make an impact. So, of course, the shift is an omni-channel and or an e-commerce model. Um, I also feel that a lot of our stores will start working like a distribution center. One of the key concepts of omni-channel is, whether you can click and pick, or you can, your basically your stores start behaving like a website, and your websites have to start behaving like stores. So that being said, there are a lot of technology which will come in, especially to aid the omni-channel. In fact, the other day, I was discussing with a few people, and then there are concerns specifically with e-commerce right now on the delivery schedule, because we all know, because of this particular COVID situation, the deliveries have also been impacted, and especially in the containment zones, etc. So there are technologies being worked upon, like QR codes, wherein you can actually do a payment on delivery using a QR code. So basically, what retailer has to do is print the QR code on the invoice, and as soon as it reaches the customer, so customer can just scan that using a super app, like let's say a Phone Pay or a Paytm, and then they can get the payment done. Other aspect which I believe is happening globally is a curbside pickup. So curbside pickup is basically, you order at the store, and the store keeps the merchandise ready for you to come and pick it up from a designated area. However, we have space constraints in our store, so that may restrict that aspect of the curbside pickup. Um, but yes, contactless shopping is going to be in, as I was just reiterating. But just to answer your question, overall, yes, there is going to be a shift. We will see more of online, not only because of the COVID situation, but I believe that this almost 2 months of quarantine have also, led us to rethink as to how we shop. So yes, convenience is going to be a major factor, as I mean, when it comes to online. So I believe that is something which is going to change, specifically with respect to the way we shop. Uh, it's not that malls are going to go away. It is not that the EBOs are going to go away. Everything is going to be as is. But the Right. So everything's going to be as is, but then of course the shift is going to be more towards online e-commerce. I can't hear you. You're muted, man.
So we also have a new concept called endless aisles. So what is this
Yes.
all about?
So I just spoke about smart mirrors or endless aisle. So as I just mentioned that the stores are going to behave more like websites. So one of the challenge of offline retailing is the representation of options, variants to the customer. Now, in this scenario, what happens is, oh, that's my son. Okay. So in this scenario, what happens is the when we're looking at an offline store, so we have a limitation of space with respect to how many pieces we can stock, or how much of variants we can keep in the store. Uh, when we bring in, let's say if you have to bring the option of representing the whole SKUs which a brand can offer, or the whole a lot of variants which a brand can offer. So in that case, what happens is the endless aisle, or a smart mirror, as we say it, comes in handy. So basically, the concept is very simple. You have an this is basically a derivative of the augmented reality. So what you do is you go and stand in front of a mirror, and then if you let's say you want to check out some more options which is not available at the store, or probably it is available at the store but you have not seen it, you can browse through it literally at the swipe of a hand, or using some gestures. You can make a purchase. So if the merchandise is available there, you will of course get it. Otherwise, it will be delivered to your doorstep. So there are, so of course, there are certain stores. I believe Louis Philippe or Van Heusen was trying to run an experiment using the endless aisle concept and at one of these stores in Bangalore, and it was pretty successful. Even Chopper Stop, if I'm not wrong, the Malad store had installed that. So yes, the idea is that you can offer beyond what is actually been shown at the store. Uh, it is as good as your web store in the store, but then yes, the element of augmented reality is there, so you can actually try what you're trying to what you'll probably be shopping. You can see how it looks at you. In fact, looks on you. In fact, there are options in such solutions where you can post your image to social media as well and check out what your friends have to say about it.
Yeah. So even offline, you can get the ideas from the friends and from
Yeah.
the family people, and
Yeah.
you can be alone, but then you can just get the feel that you are shopping with a big gang.
Right.
That's good. Yeah, fine. So that's wonderful. So the next thing is you've been talking about omni-channel. And you also have been talking about the thing that almost 60% of them are still only having cash kind of transactions. So this brick and mortar is still there. So how do you think the retailers are going to bridge this gap between physical and digital transactions or interactions? How are they going to bridge it up?
So a simple answer to that will be take your inventory or take your options online. In fact, one of the projects which we are working right now is just to see how we can, bridge the gap between what is there in your store and what is there on your website. So, is there a way you can integrate your inventory? And there are, software solutions or ERP solutions right now which are capable of taking up your inventory, which is lying in your warehouse or lying in front of your stores and putting up on your website. So the way to bridge, I would say, is primarily make the your merchandise available to the customers, whether they're coming to your store or they're coming to your website. Now that is where the omni concept comes in. So you're now channel agnostic. So you're not depending on whether I'm online or offline. You're everywhere. The other thing which I believe is going to be a challenge for an omni-channel retailing space is, or in the current scenario, is the customer experience. Now, one of the critical things which a lot of online platforms have been working on is the last mile customer experience or customer delivery. Now, I go to Myntra, or let's say I go to Agio and I pick up something, and let's say if I'm buying let's say a Gap merchandise, or I'm buying let's say a Louis Philippe merchandise, the kind of experience which I get in a store, of course, I'll never be able to get it online, right? So in this situation, that is one challenge which I believe customers will still face if you're buying it online, or you're walking the omnichannel route. But then that being said, I believe that is going to be offset by a lot of other perks which comes online, right from the convenience to the let's say a basic cashback or a discounting. Because I mean, all of us, we know that online has been very discount driven model as of now in the country. Uh, so when you move omni-channel, I believe you integrate everything, and I believe that is the way forward. Whether it is with respect to the payment, or whether it is with respect to optimizing your inventory. Uh, I also think one of the biggest challenges for the lifestyle retail industry, when I talk about lifestyle, I'm looking at, let's say, footwear, apparels, jewelry, has been the kind of inventory depth or the inventory width which has to be maintained. Now, that is going to be a big challenge, because what is happening now is that globally the supply chains are disrupted, right? So of course, so sometime back I was reading somewhere that if China can be the factory of the world, why can't India be the office of the world? So that being said, what is happening is, while at this point in time China has come out of the entire pandemic, of course there are still certain localized infections which are there. But overall, what has happened is China is back on track now. But this 2 3 months of disruption which has happened across, I mean, whether it's China or everywhere anywhere else, will lead to a a gap in the supply chain. Now, this is the time for retailers to actually evaluate, do they really need to go and, go back to China in terms of sourcing? Of course, I'm not talking about the anti-China sentiment, but that being said, the this disruption which has happened in the supply chain basically should force the retailers to think how they can optimize the supply chain all the more, because the inventory depth or the inventory width which we maintain in, especially in the apparel retail, is a big challenge which we have to overcome. I'm not too sure if you can, of course, in apparel you cannot move to a JIT kind of model, but somewhere that challenge is something which we have to overcome. So, just to answer your question, how can things, be more uniform across all the channels? So yes, definitely we have to look at omni-channel, and not only in terms of integrating the technology, but also trying to see what we can do in terms of customer experience. Now, a simple thing like a product packaging, right, can impact customer experience. Now, the way I package the merchandise and at my store versus how I deliver it online. So, can I maintain certain amount of uniformity there? Will that enhance my customer experience across? These are some of the basic questions I believe the retailer has to answer.
Yeah. So the next one is about the technologies. Globally, all the industries are getting ready to face the next industry revolution, Industry 4.0. So how do you think the retail sector is getting ready to face this revolution?
So I think we're there because I mean, you might say it has been forced upon us, but then yes, we're there. There are a lot of changes which were in the pipeline pre-COVID. Uh, but I believe what is also happening now is because of COVID, as I mentioned mentioned before as well, this entire change is uh, is more fast now. Whether it is let's say digital payments or the payment part which I've been talking about, or whether it is inventory optimization, or whether it is let's say retailers like Pepperfry or adopting solutions like an augmented reality. The change of course is happening. Yes, as I mentioned, one of the challenges in the country has been how cost effective these technical or technical solutions or technologies are. I probably believe that is one of the hindrances which has been there. Now, but yes, in a post-COVID world, and where the concerns are going to be on hygiene, and there are going to be SOPs rewritten just to maintain certain certain basic things like social distancing and contactlessness across the entire shopping experience or the user journey. The change is something which is going to happen in India as well. A very simple thing like an OTT or or a communication over social media is now going to be more predominant. I mean, look at us right now. We are sitting across and doing a webinar. Now, 3 months back, or let's say somewhere in January, who could have thought that this is going to happen? So this is what has been forced upon us, and I believe that we have adopted or forced to adopt to this particular scenario pretty well. Um, I'm sure I mean, the college itself, and I'm sure you in particular are exploring, of course, apart from webinar, you're also trying to understand what can we do on the, just to make sure that the continuity of education is there, and, the students are still engaged. So, of course, there are a lot of technology and out there, and I'm sure you guys would be experimenting with that. So like is for education, the while the sector has adopted, and of course there were certain technology which was already there. I mean, just to say a Udemy or or an Academy or a Merit Nation or Byju's, where these guys were there. But what has happened is that because of this particular situation, the adoption has been much more faster now, right? So same is something which is going to happen to retail as well. The technologies have been around. As I say, that the adoption will be much more faster, and I think people will be willing to experiment with it because I mean it's now or never. The world has changed.
Yeah. So do you think the rate in adoption is different globally and in India? How do you think
Yeah.
it's
So
different?
if you look at the way the West, I would say, adopts technology is, of course, much more faster than how India or, let's say, the SAARC countries, I would say, absorb it. Of course, there are multiple reasons for it, and I think the prime reason is, of course, the technology cost. There are also, I would say, challenges on, the government norms, etc., etc. For a simple thing like a drone-based delivery is not happening in India right now. There are, of course, people are experimenting. I think Zomato has also tried to do something with it. But I mean, one of my cousins basically runs a drone training school out of US, and the delivery through drone is not something which is not something which is unheard of in US. In India, of course, there are certain challenges, whether it is with respect to defense or DGCA has to formulate certain rules. So yes, there is the pace of things in terms of adoption, of course, is slow in the country, which I would attribute to multiple reasons. As I said, one is of course the government policies. The second is the cost, and of course there are certain things which we try to automate, right? So whether it is having a robot, let's say, move around a grocery store and trying to assess whether shelves are empty or stocks are ample or not, to let's say a digital payment solution. So I mean, we as a country were very comfortable with cash, right? So, but of course, because of this situation, yes, we are being forced into adopting new things. But then, just to answer your question, yes, as a country, we have been slow in adopting, but there are multiple reasons because of that. I mean, it is nothing to do with what our demeanor as a country is. It's mainly to do with the lot of tertiary factors. That I believe is going to change. I think we'll be more open to hear out more new technologies. Of course, and that will also lead to the penetration of technology into retail spaces.
Okay. Uh, so necessity is the mother of invention, and when there is a necessity, I think everybody try to follow things at a faster pace. Uh, Fine. So the next thing is you have been mentioning a lot about post-COVID, but still, just to give a highlight on it. So I'll just post both the questions that are short. You can just take it together. So one thing is, how are the retailers going to face the new economy crisis? And the next thing is, what are the alterations in the retail space which have been done to face the post-COVID situations?
Okay, so just to add to what you said, necessity is the mother of invention, and I also believe that laziness is the father. So, and that is and if I have to take laziness aspect a bit further, we are basically talking about convenience. That is where convenience steps in, and therefore the entire online and e-commerce. That's how I attribute it right now. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me. That being said, coming to the COVID scenario. I mean, for the last half an hour, what I've been talking, our discussions are mostly revolving around, how the situation is right now, and I think everything is being viewed, from post-COVID perspective right now. So this particular pandemic is unprecedented. I have never seen it. I'm sure none of the people. Probably the last which I've been reading is something was like a Spanish flu or something where something like this happened. So this is unprecedented. We have never seen it. We have never witnessed it. It is something which we are learning every day as time goes on. And we have to as I keep saying that we have to. There are a lot of new things which is happening right now. I mean, this is something, there's no manual for this because we have not experienced this before. So we will have to, as I say, we will have to build the plane as we fly it. Now the economic crisis which we are into, of course, yes, there is a challenge everywhere. I mean, I'm not an expert on the the future will pan out in terms of economies, but there will be, of course, there will be certain damages. India is a large service base, and there are a lot of MSME sector which is involved. Now, whether it is service domestic or whether it is service to clients abroad, I think that is going to get impacted a lot, and that is why the government has actually rolled out a package for the MSME vertical. MSME also employs a lot of people, so employments will be under challenge, and I believe that is already there. Though there are green shoots of hope wherein people are there are companies who have awarded extra incentive or going ahead with salary hikes. But then yes, there have also been furloughs, there have also been job cuts, there have also been layoffs. uh, for a retailer, the focus till now was open a store or be there where the customer is, and that is where most of the people went to malls, and that is, of course, that is where the traffic was flowing. Now what has happened is, because of this extended lockdown, the malls have got impacted big time, and there is practically no walk-in happening there. So as soon as the malls open up, and I personally feel that malls are will be able to handle uh, the revised updated SOPs for customer coming to your store or mall in a better way compared to the mom and pop stores. That being said, the government has decided that they will take some time before they open the malls and theaters and other such spaces. Now, till that opens up, of course, retailers who are primarily into offline retail and into malls are going to be under pressure. And the more it extends, the more. So basically, I'm not too sure if they will have the kind of cash reserves to support the not only the people but a lot of other tertiary services for such a prolonged time, because this is almost the third month we are entering into. So with that in mind, economy of course is stretched, but I think that we should never waste a crisis, right? So this is a crisis which we are in, and I remember when SARS happened, a decade ago in China. That is where Alibaba became so strong, right? So I think somewhere retailers also have to look at this like an opportunity and see how they can reach out to the consumers. So what has happened is, what I understand, the overall, so shopping is still happening, right? So of course we are now limited to essentials, and then cities which are not under lockdown anymore, the uh, the standalone stores have been opened, especially in Bangalore. Of course, there was an initial spike in the shopping trends from these stores. In fact, some of these stores were doing better business than before this entire pandemic happened. That being said, it could be attributed to an initial spike, but consumption, of course, is not going to see. We are human beings are a creature of habit, right? So we have been habituated to shop and dine and enjoy a life or whatever disposable incomes we have in a certain manner. Now, that of course is not going to change overnight. So yes, there will be outbursts. There will be scenarios when you are trying to see, okay, how can I get my life back to normal? Probably that is what will give us a sense of, sanity, particularly. And we always spoke about retail therapy, right? So that I believe will some way or the other come back now. Of course, we'll not be able to do a window shopping how we used to do earlier. Uh, but I believe that the behavior as such will not change in terms of going out and exploring, because that is not who we are as human beings. Now, what is going to change is, of course, how we navigate, right? So, let's say we're going to a mall, and then we will be very wary of the person standing next to us. We will not be able to sit in a food court and eat, shoulder to shoulder. Those things are going to change. How we navigate is going to change, and that is where I think retailers may have to redesign certain stores with respect to space density. And I think some of the places it's already happening. Whether it is standalone stores which have opened, and of course there is already a certain amount of norm in terms of how many people should be there in the store, etc., etc. There is government is also forcing, for example, in Bangalore yesterday there was a curfew, right? So Sundays are still off, and then of course the shopping hours are limited till 7. So these measures are still there. Of course, they'll ease out in the long term. But what I understand is this: the navigation part is going to change drastically. The other thing which I am seeing right now is, adoption of very basic technologies like video calling. So, for example, let's say I am a retailer and I open a store, and then I have my set customers who I know will always come to me for whatever reason. It could be because of the product quality, it could be because of the fit, or it could be because of the sheer customer experience. So, can I reach to those people and say, hey, listen, I've got this with me, and the other side of the conversation, can you show it to me? Can you show how it looks like? Can you show what has come new in your store? And that is where, a video calling can come in. Of course, it can also be extended to an, augmented reality or virtual reality aspect. So, I believe that is something which, retailers will have to do certain changes. We had recently worked out certain SOPs for how these stores are going to handle customers. So there are a lot of things which happens in the store. I mean, beyond the customer receiving, customer servicing part, there's also the other important aspect is the staff, whose health is also equally important. So you may have to rewrite your SOPs. You may have to redo certain things with respect to how you're handling your consumers and your staff. Um, but yes, I see a lot of intervention again coming to technology itself. So I just spoke about video call, and then I think right now a lot of people are also doing screening for temperatures now, and I'm also seeing certain advanced solution where you're putting a camera onto the person and trying to see what the body temperatures they're having, basically a thermal sensing camera. Now, is it also possible? I'm just putting a thought here. There are certain technologies which are already there, which are pretty advanced on the facial recognition side. So is it also possible while you're screening your customers, you're also trying to ascertain what kind of facial expressions they're throwing up? And then, so let's say somebody is coming happily to your store, and what do you offer? And somebody is, let's say, looking a bit grumpy, so what do you have to offer? So it also shows that, you can merge certain technologies which were on the anvil to be rolled out pre-COVID, and what are the technology which is happening at this point of time at the store. So, that is where certain impact will come. The other thing which I see is that I'm not too sure how this will pan out in the long run, but I think the weekend effect, right? That will probably in the short term, of course, that has evened out, right? So you don't see that sudden surge of business which happens on weekend, which used to happen pre-COVID, because now what is happening is, for me also, it took me some time to understand, though, I mean, we've been trying to work out of home. for me to understand that, hey, listen, even though you're at home, this is not a holiday, right? You're still supposed to work. So of course, this also impacts the how consumers, interact with you. So the weekend effect in the short term, of course, will not be there. Probably in the long term, things may pan out differently. Um, I believe while to handle the economic front, I believe that retailers have to rethink the entire approach of reaching out to the consumers. But yes, that being said, at the store level, they have to be more careful about the typical store touch points and smaller things like, let's say, railings or lift buttons, etc., etc. So I think safety, hygiene is going to be a key part, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, the navigation of the consumers at the store.
Yeah, so maybe it's going to be a combination of online and physical store kind of thing, where people can navigate online, and then on an appointment they will be allowed to go inside the store to have a look at what they saw online, isn't it?
Yes, so that is also one thought process which is emerging. Of course, the malls which have opened abroad, there's already an appointment-based system which is there, wherein you need to uh, tell in advance that this is the time when I want to come. In fact, some of these smaller boutiques and some of these smaller jewelry shops or the jewelry shops in India have also already adopted this,
Yes.
just to limit the number of people which are there at the store. Yes, so that is something which can definitely evolve.
Yeah. So I just saw a jewelry advertisement yesterday. So they've been proclaiming that there is no AC. And then they've also been telling that on appointment, they will be able to visit the store. And of course, I also heard in another webinar where experts were telling that after COVID, there's going to be, as you said, people all love shopping. So he also said that there's going to be a pent-up shopping spree. So the retailers also have to get ready for that. But of course, the kind of colors and the styles that they're going to be selecting may be very minimalistic. So that's what I heard from another webinar. Yeah. And yes, Abhinav?
So one thing which I think everybody spoke about when China opened up was how quickly China bounced back. So we were all talking about a V curve, and then someone started coming and saying, "Hey, listen, there's not going to be a V curve. We'll probably have a U curve." So yes, there is going to be a pent up, uh, you know, shopping demand or pent up basically emotions which are going to lead to shopping spree, and then of course that is why the initial spike which probably we have witnessed in some of the stores.
Yeah. So I think at this time, I think you have shared a video on how retailers are getting ready for COVID. So we'll just have a look at the video now.
Sure.
Mr. Pavan, can you please share the screen of the video?
1 minute, ma'am, 1 minute.
So this is for, if I'm not wrong, this is not for an Indian mall.
Yeah, fine. Understand.
Just starting it, can you just check, confirm if the audio is fine?
Yeah, thank you, Pawan. And thank you, Abhinav, also to have shared that video for us. We get a better understanding with that video.
Pleasure.
So I'm just going to the last question, and then we'll move on to the question answer session. Um, so we have a lot of students here with us. So on behalf of them, I'd like to answer, I would like to ask one thing. What are the upcoming entrepreneur ventures that people could take on in a retail-based startup?
Okay, so one of the challenges which this pandemic has thrown is the funds flow to startups, right? So there are a couple of startups I've been working with, and in fact, one of the bootstrap startup which I've been working with actually shut shop a month back, and the challenge, of course, has been the sustaining without any funds flowing in. So I think for entrepreneurs, what is critical is how can you make a minimum viable product and try to work out your unit economics, because that is going to be a challenge in the future, because of course the funds flow is going to shrink. Now where all you can align to, if you ask me, so there are a lot of, if there is something happening in the B2B space instead of a B2C space, try to align yourself to that. And I believe that is where a lot of stuff is going to happen when it comes to technology intervention, whether it is on the merchandising side or whether it's on, let's say, marketing analytics side or something on the predictive analytics. I think that is where the industries will move, because that backend functions as such are not automated. They are still not efficient. So so for example, now I'm also working with one of my colleagues on certain software wherein we can look at automating the entire retail planning and merchandising cycle. Now, and this is a B2B product. So there is going to be, I'm also given to understand that, of course, there'll be a lot of funds flow happening to a B2B commerce, because this is a rather unexplored area. Uh, Analytics, I believe, is going to play a major role. One of the gentlemen I was talking to day before yesterday was just wondering why the merchandising solution itself is not working on AI right now. Right. So I'm not too sure how many of you are exposed to a typical retail replenishment and an allocation model. But if you see, there's a lot of human intervention in it. Of course, because it's a very intricate subject, you have to take care of a lot of aspects. A lot of levers are there which you have to look at, right from, let's say, consumer behavior to geographies to store classifications, etc., etc. But if AI can solve the bigger challenges, yes, of course, this is also one challenge which AI should get into, and of course that is where one of the projects which I'm working on with a friend of mine, we are working on that aspect. So B2B analytics, AI-based solutions, I think that is where probably the startups are headed. The consumer space or a B2C space, there are a lot of verticals already there. So I think that should that I won't say it's saturated, but you will find it more challenging to align to such. You may align to such companies, but I'm not too sure of the longevity of that. So that is one aspect which I would like to bring in. The other thing which I want to put across is that the for the students, right? So I understand that this is a jittery time, right? So and Of course, I remember when we passed out from college, whether it was engineering or MBA, somehow or the other, there was always a recession around the corner. And yes, there were challenges in terms of what packages we get, how we get placed, etc., etc. But this is nothing like it. I mean, this is an altogether another level. I believe that which I always put across whether I'm interacting with students at any level with any college is that you should always try to take up certain project works. I think just a generic advice to all the students: try to keep yourself engaged and try to be close to the market. Try to understand what all you can do. And what happens is when you're actually trying to work out certain projects, you realize there are certain problems. Okay, and if you are able to identify problems, and of course the next logical step is your mind will go to a point where you'll think, okay, how do I solve it, right? And that is where, and I was just I think yesterday probably I was discussing with Bhanandika ma'am herself that the uh, the big the big IT companies or the big retailers will not come up with solutions to day-to-day problems, that because they don't have that agility, right? And that is where I believe startups or you guys as students can make a difference. So there are certain courses and certain colleges I interact with where there is a subject called as entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship development. So my and therein they have to do certain project and work out an entire P&L out of it. So the point which I'm trying to make is that keep an entrepreneurship mindset, because I believe over a period of time, that is the probably be the next kind of in fact, it's already there. That's, I mean, beyond a service economy, we'll probably start servicing each other, right? So I have a service, you have a service, and we interact and we generate revenue. So try to keep an entrepreneurship mindset as well, whether you're working for a big corporate or you're working for a small startup, or you're doing something on your own. I think that is something which will take you places. Uh, and especially how entrepreneurs and startups should work out. I believe B2B probably will, give a lot of scope, right?
Yeah, thank you, Abhinav. Now we'll just move on to the question answer session. So to start with, I have a few questions which I've received from the students. I'll just talk and then we'll go on to the next thing from the Facebook and
Sure,
question answer box over here.
sure.
So the first thing is how artificial intelligence based personalized shopping experience and customer centric merchandising will benefit the users.
Okay, so see, there are two things when you implement a technology solution. So one is how uh, your consumers or customers are going to get impacted, the end user, and the second is how the industry in generic or that particular setup or enterprise is going to get impacted or benefited. So there is a concept called as consumer delight, which we always speak about when we're talking about marketing or especially in terms of retail. Now, right now, what happens is, I am in a situation, especially if I'm buying online. So I get, I have a pre-decided budget in mind and I have a pre-decided product in mind, and then I go and shop. Now, while I'm shopping, there are certain algorithms which are working on, let's say, an Amazon or a Myntra, which also says, would you like to buy this? Would you like to buy this as well? Or people who bought this also bought this, right? Now, this is I would say, probably the first step when it comes to, implementing such algorithms. But honestly, there are times when I am also, get bugged that why do I have to look at what other people have bought, right? So if I'm buying a shirt, doesn't necessarily mean that I'll go and buy a trouser as well, right? So probably an AI has to can how it can help is it can personalize your entire shopping experience. I would put it like that. Uh, in an online space as of now. In an offline space, of course, the uh, the impact will be more on the supply chain efficiency. You know how you can minimize. I mean, again, that's more towards the organization. It has nothing to do with the consumer as such. But what happens is the organizations become more lean and efficient. And as I said, whether it is apparel or footwear, we actually play with a lot of SKUs, right? So that is something which can be made efficient. So efficiency and of course the consumer delight. These are two things wherein I feel AI can impact.
Yeah. The next one is, you will most address this. Some economic technology solutions for new startups to sustain the competition with the big players. If there is a different dimension you want to approach this question, you can please add on to it.
So honestly, I don't feel there is a competition between the startups and the big players, right? Because I mean, I think both of them operate at a different orbit. Uh, the startups can't do what a big player can do, and a big player cannot do what a startup can do. So the way I see it, there's no competition. I don't think there should also you should also be competing. Uh, I think what a startup should basically focus is on building some consumer base. Of course, typically an investor looks at what kind of traction do you have, right? But then I also believe that which is more relevant in the current times is how many times is the current customer coming back to you. Let's say you may have 1 billion customer, but how many of them are coming back to you? Because that is where the real value add is. So yeah, so that is how I like to answer this question.
Yeah, yeah, fine. So over to Mr. Pavan. Can you please shoot out the questions in the question answer box?
Mr. There is a first question from an anonymous attendee. Hi, sir. You had previously mentioned that e-commerce industry may go up after this pandemic. But when there are return policies in almost every website, how can people overcome the fear of whether the particular product received was tried by an infected person previously?
Well, that's a very good question. So one thing which is being worked out right now across the industry is, especially when it comes to fashion and apparel, is that in this scenario, in this environment, how do we make sure that whatever we are getting has not been, a pre-used, refurbished kind of garment or product, and even if it is a pre-used and refurbished, it should not carry any infection. So, so as we speak, there are people who are working on disinfection technology, whether it is with respect to, let's say, a simple thing as a UV lamp, or it is with respect to, let's say, uh, something very basic and simple like just ironing. So, whatever we understand of the virus today is that. There are certain temperatures, let's say beyond 70 degrees or so, and if you expose it on certain surface, it is no longer there. For paper, for example, the virus cannot stay more than I think cannot stay more than 3 to 4 hours. On doorknobs and railings and all, it can still stay. On apparels also, it stays for, if I'm not wrong, for 2 to 3 days. Now, that is where the brand element comes in. Now, if I'm a standard brand and if I'm an evolved brand where I really care about my consumers, so as a brand, I'll have to define certain SOPs in terms of how am I taking care of this disinfection, and I'll have to lay down certain SOPs accordingly. And it is where the brand trust and the will move to, right? So earlier the brand trust was mainly in terms of either it was addressing your ego, right, or it was addressing your need for a certain product quality, right? But I think one of the additional aspects which is going to happen now is the hygiene element. So if you as a brand are able to convey to your consumers that, hey, listen, I've followed certain recipes and this is the thing which I'm doing, and what I'm offering is pretty safe, uh, then I think you're home that way. So I think that is where, just to address your, the idea of getting consumer returns and then how to make sure that it is disinfected. That is where, a lot of communication will move to. In fact, a lot of videos, if you see right now, which is happening from standard brands, whether they are store labels, store brands, or there are consumer brands, is uh, is around that itself.
Thank you, Abhinav. The next question we have is from Ms. Geeta Malini. Would like to know, is our retail industry prepared to meet digital demand and challenges? Also to add, we have one more question from Vasant Kumar. Does any retailer in India has implemented or plan to implement the AI concept based in the stores?
Can you please repeat the first question first? I'll just answer that. Then
The first question is, would like to know, is our retail industry prepared to meet digital demand and challenges?
Yes, I would like to believe so, that we are ready to, meet whatever digital challenges and demands are there. One of the things which I want to bring forth in this entire conversation is, though we are talking about omni-channel, etc., etc., the internet penetration plays a big role. And I'm not talking about, receiving internet. It is also a question of the quality of the internet, right? So, am I able to get 4G data in a remote village? And of course, what has happened is this: if you have seen, for example, apps like TikTok, right? So the consumer base uh, is largely tier 3, tier 4 city, correct? And so, of course, they have access to technology as such. The other challenge is going to be, and they have also been they have also adopted it fairly. The challenge is going to be, the way I see it, is the quality of internet penetration. How much of 3G, 4G data can I, pass on to a tier 3 or tier 4 city, and what is the kind of bandwidth I can get there? Because though India as a country, we've been saying that we are growing very fast with respect to internet penetration, etc., etc. But the challenge is the quality of data. So one thing which is going to, when you speak about whether we'll be able to handle the digital challenge, I believe in terms of technology platforms, yes, we are there. But there are certain basics, probably we have not been able to address. And in fact, there are sometimes when I do webinars or we are doing some con calls with clients, there are certain times where we get disconnected, or there are certain data issues, etc., etc. So I'm saying that those kind of hygiene elements when it comes to serviceability has to be addressed, of course. But otherwise, I think we are fairly ready to, face and handle any, internet or sorry, digital challenges. I mean, we have one of the largest amount of engineers in the country, so I don't think that will ever going to be a challenge. What is the next question, Mr. Pawan?
Uh, the next one is,
With respect to AI, right?
does any retailer in India has implemented or planning to implement the AI-based concepts in the stores?
Well, to answer that, I'm not privy to, what will be the strategies as such of retailers in the country right now. AI implementation, there are certain tools which are being dabbled with. And on the analytics front, yes, of course, there are certain advanced analytics tools which, in a way, play with certain basic, AI concepts. So, of course, I think that is where the intervention will happen first in terms of consumer analytics. So, yeah, so for a simple thing like, let's say, a heat map at your store, and if something can be done about it, so that is something which will come up faster. So yes, analytics is where probably AI will come in first, but what all retailers are actually working with it, I'm not privy to them, their strategy overall. But yes, let me assure you that there is a lot of headway happening in on the AI front as well.
Next, we have a question from Mr. Karthik, who is a first year fashion technology student. Sir, do you think online garment shopping give good profit margin to the seller since they'll have to pack the product and deliver to their location? And as a customer, we do not like to have these delivery charges if the product is more than say 500 or 600 rupees. And if the customer doesn't like the product, they'll ask for a refund or again, we'll have to come back, take it. So is there a margin profit for the seller?
So Karthik, I'm not too sure if you have studied closely the entire value chain and the markup model and the markdowns which happens in an for a retailer or a brand which is purely online. I believe that is what your question is. So yes, these are aspects which you have to build into your profit and loss statement, right? So when you're trying to figure out that is my business sustainable, viable, and as I said, does it make sense to have it from the perspective of unit economics? So of course you have to build these things in your business model, and probably that will also be one of the strategies how you mark up your product. Uh, so the forward logistics, as you said, and the reverse logistics has to be built in. Of course, nobody wants to pay extra for delivery charges and all, right? So I don't think any of the lifestyle products actually charge delivery charges as such. Most of it is built in and it comes as a free delivery.
Is it good? We can go with three more questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, please go ahead. No problem.
We have one from Ms. Bhagyalakshmi. Will
Yes.
adoption of online selling affect the middle level jobs? What is your message to the designers to become techno savvy?
Is that these are two different questions, right?
Two different questions put in a single message.
Okay. So the first question is, will it affect middle level job? Please come again. The first question,
Will
adoption.
adoption of online selling affect middle level jobs? What is your message to the designers to become techno savvy?
Okay, so to answer the first question, I think what is going to happen is there is going to be a different set of skills required will be required in the market. So you have to look beyond learning an Excel sheet if you're going into an analytics kind of profile or role. So to answer your first question, I don't think jobs will get impacted because of technology intervention. What will have to be done is that in the colleges and in the schools or whatever vocational courses you are doing, you need to become aware of new technologies which is happening. I think one of the things, for example, is that how many of you know programming, right? So, and I'm not talking from a design perspective. I'm looking at people who are probably, let's say, into merchandising or who are doing a lot of analytics and analysis and data interpretation kind of job. Now, the way I see it, like we had I mean, when we were growing up, the reading and the writing or doing mathematics, arithmetic, were some of the essential skills. I think what I keep telling my kids is that, hey, listen, you need to learn programming. So that being said, I believe there will have to be certain skill upgradation to stay relevant in the current job scenario. That is to answer the first question. For the second part of the question, what kind of technology a designer should adopt, right? That is the question, Bhavan.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What is the second question? The technology for the
What
designers,
is
right?
your message to designers to become techno savvy?
I don't know. I mean, be more techno savvy. I think designers are. I mean, one of the things which a good designer has to have is the good observation skills. Apart from sketching and knowing different tools, etc., etc. There are certain basics which you cannot compromise on. Let's say a basic understanding of color aesthetics and you know the basic design elements should be clear to you, whether you're using a tool like an AI or something else, or whether you're simply doing your sketching. But I believe for a designer, what is very critical as a skill is, observation, imagination, and thinking out of the box, which is nothing to do with technology per se. It is more to do with, how you as an individual are grooming yourself. But generally, I believe designers are these days techno savvy.
Uh, we have again one from Geeta Marini. What are the opportunities this COVID, the post-COVID that would bring the retail industry on the positive side of the scenario and how to grab those?
We don't know. So as I said, we are building the plane as we fly it, right? So we don't know how things are going to, shape up. All of it, what we are talking right now, post COVID, and what is happening is how things are happening day to day, or everything else is speculation. Uh, as I said, of course, there are certain consumer behavior changes which will happen, and I believe that's already happening. Apart from that, will we scale up? Yes, all the economic indicators are to that level itself that the growth is going to come back, and of course, India is going to grow at a 7 to 8% GDP, etc., etc. But how will that happen, and what kind of you know consumer behavior changes will happen? I'll be very honest and upfront, without any speculation. I believe that is something which we'll have to wait and watch. Yes, you can expect changes in terms of how we interact socially.
The final question, Mr. Abhinav.
Yes.
India has imported most of technologies. So do you think India will wait for any success experiments done by others or will try to experiment its own strategy?
India does a lot of uh, own technology as well. I won't say it is imported. One of the things which has happened in the last couple of years is this. I won't say couple of years, but probably 4 5 years is this, that the uh, the technology is not specific to any country or any particular region or territory. It is very global in nature, right? So in fact, India's payment gateway solutions or India's UPI solutions are more intricate than what you'll find abroad. Uh, India actually presents a lot of challenges to any technology, because we are a very diversified country with different stratas of society when it comes to the whether it's economic front or on the cultural front. So we are very diverse. So what it means is this, that even though we import technology, or let's say we look at certain technology which has been doing rounds outside the country, we still have to adopt to it. But let me also tell you that India also jumps technologies. For example, India never got onto the pager bandwagon. We never had the pagers, right? So from the landlines, we came directly to mobile phones. While West, specifically US, had the entire pager revolution, right? So it is nothing to do with. I don't think we actually we adopt technologies. I would rather put it like that instead of importing technology. So we adopt technology, but then, as I just mentioned some time back, we have the highest amount of engineers, and when you look at places like Pune, Bombay, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, uh, these kind of cities where there's a huge startup ecosystem. So you'll realize there's a lot of local problems which we are trying to solve, right? So that basically, you know, so there is a lot of inherent ingenious stuff which we're trying to do to solve certain problems.
Thank you, Mr. Abhinav. I guess we are out of questions. I request Dr. Banureka, HODFT, to take it over and thank the speaker for this wonderful time.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Pavan, and thank you, Abhinav. That was wonderful taking up all the questions. So I just want you to roll up the whole thing, like just give a small summary about the whole thing, and then we'll be able
Sure.
to.
So as I mentioned, so I think one of the things which our discussions gravitated towards eventually was, how things are shaping up, post-COVID, or in the current pandemic scenario. So I think that one of the factors which will, probably hold true going forward is, um, as an industry, as a country, we are becoming more open to technology, and that is where, as you said, the technology 4.0. I think That is where we as an industry are also headed. We're going to imbibe more and more of technology, and we are going to. I mean, the way I see it, I think we will our supply chains will become more efficient going forward, more optimum, and probably more shorter, more closer to the market. I also feel there are technologies like AR, VR, online payments, etc., which will come into the picture and will become more predominant. So pre-COVID, of course, we were working on certain technologies which were supposed to come and assimilate into the retail industry. I think post-COVID, that assimilation will happen much more faster. Um, Whether it is, basic things like, let's say, robots coming in, or let's say chatbots, or let's say analytics, or certain B2B applications. I think we'll all adopt to it, and I think we'll come out of it in a much more glorified manner, I would say.
Yeah. So it is, of course, it is uncertain times for everybody, but this is not going to stay with us. We are going to cross this. We're going to see positive things happening. Yes. Thank you, Abhinav. And I request Ms. Gauri to officially present the vote of thanks.
Good morning to all. Instead of wondering when your next vacation is, maybe you should set up a life you don't need to escape from. Lockdown may take up any version, but our retail industry has been ever ready with evergreen changes. On behalf of KCG College of Technology, I would like to thank Mr. Abhinav Srivatsava, who gave a bird's eye view of the dynamism of our retail industry. The session gave good insights on the various transformations that has been happening in the fashion retail industry. I thank all the students and faculty from our college and from various other colleges across India who have joined us online for this webinar. I also thank our management, principal, associate dean and HOD for giving the opportunity for conducting the webinar. I would like to thank the system admin, Mr. Vipin and Mr. Pavan, our placement officer, for their technical support. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, Gauri.
Thank you.
Abhinav. Thank you for
Thank you.
spending your
Thank you.
wonderful time with us. So hope we have long-time associations. So once the lockdown is over, we'd like you to visit our college. Thank you
That'll
so
be my
much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.